everyone. Welcome to Shifting Perspectives, the Baja Beach Wellness Podcast. This is our next episode in the series of narcissism and gaslighting. So if you did not check out the first episode in this series, go back and check it out. But we are going to continue our discussion. I am your host, Wendy. I have with me Amy, Bridget, and Angela today. Disclaimer that we put on the first in this series, we are obviously not professionals. These ladies have just dealt with this in their lives, as many of you probably have, because unfortunately it's a thing. So we are just hoping that we can bring attention to this, and talk to somebody out there. If something kind of resonates with you, maybe it'll help you get some help and recognize behaviors that you're dealing with in your own lives. So let's continue with this discussion. I guess, before we talked about what narcissism is, there's a whole different spectrum of, narcissistic behaviors, the main types of narcissism that, exist. But I guess we want to talk today mostly about, where do you go from here once you find out that you're dealing with that type of person in your life. Maybe it's a person that you can cut out of your life. Maybe it's somebody you can't cut out of your life. So, talk to me. Like, what has been your experiences? I don't know who wants to go first.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I think it's different depending on what type of relationship it is. So, it isn't always easy when it's family or, a lot of people, I think, realize that they're in a romantic relationship with a narcissist, and that can be really hard because obviously, there's so many emotions tied to it. But, I really strongly believe in no contact. And I know that's one of the hardest things to do. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But once you realize what you're dealing with, no contact and lawyer up, honestly, if necessary, because narcissists love to come back. They come back around. So if you leave that door open, if you leave that person unblocked, okay, it's going to constantly disturb your peace. And that wasn't something I was ever going to sacrifice again in any of my relationships. So it honestly taught me to have stronger boundaries with anybody, because if and I think I was kind of trained by one of my narcissists to constantly fight or flight, answering every text message from anyone, like constantly checking emails, constantly feeling that I needed to just respond to every little thing all the time. And once, again, through therapy, and I started to work through these things, I'm like, wait a second. My peace is my peace. Okay. So I don't owe anybody my peace at all. So if that means that I am completely cutting somebody off and blocking them so I don't even see a message come through or an email or any of that, that's what I'm doing. Again, it's not always an easy thing to do, but I really, at least again, I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. I think that's the safest thing to do for your own mental health a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. What about the person that you have to, I think Angela, I know a little bit about your situation. Yeah. How do you set boundaries, when you still have to communicate with that person on some sort of level? How do you protect your peace, and still set those boundaries and still have some sort of communication?
I wish I would have known back then what I know now. And I remember, especially when you have children involved or if they're family and you have to have that connection, looking back, even though I broke out of that relationship and environment, you do have to swim through those waters. And at that time,
even though I was away from that situation and away from that person, I still found that that person was controlling me in some way, shape, or form. And in a sense where if that person was happy and if that person was in a relationship and found a new source to feed off of, I was good. But when that person was not happy or they were in conflict with whoever they were in a relationship with, my life turned to hell. Like I was the doormat. Wow. And it's a different way of narcissism because I was saying to myself, well, here I share children with this person, I got to kind of just ebb and flow with the situation and just kind of take it and just deal with it because I just want to keep as much peace as possible for my children's sake. So doing that for as long as I did, when push came to shove about 3 years ago, it got very dark again. And we were in court. And at the time, because the communication became so toxic and very typical narcissist, false accusations, lies, manipulation, threats, I still do have a great lawyer, but there was an app put in place. So it's a court ordered app where all the communication is done through that so that it can be administered very easily, as evidence if need be. So again, then we became friendly-ish, okay, for the children's sake. And here we are back again. And, it's like, how many times does somebody need to learn their lesson? But I think through therapy, I think also through resources and just surrounding myself with other people that are going through the same thing. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. But here we are again, back on a ordered app. And that is how we communicate. It is very easy to just be able to text somebody, email somebody, but unfortunately, I'm not in that situation anymore. But I'm very grateful for that resource because that is protection. It protects my peace. Because again, going back to what you said, every text or it's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting this text. I have to respond. I don't anymore, and a lot of those texts aren't coming through because it is visible in a legal way. Yeah. So that's boundaries right there. And also, unless it's an emergency, I do not have to respond, especially if my children are with me. There is no emergency, Right. So even when they're not with me, thankfully, like they're old enough, they have their cell phones, but I do not allow that to disrupt my peace. Like I will see a message come through. You know what? When I get to it, I get to it. Or if it is a rebuttal or just, like when I'm ready to deal with it, I will. I don't look at it before I go to bed. I don't look at them when I first wake up because again, I'm not going to allow anybody to affect and have control over what type of night sleep I'm going to get and what type of day I'm going to get. Yeah. That's awesome. So I know I kind of went off on that a little bit, but that's it's exactly unfortunate. Like when you have to with that person, am I counting down the days? Abso-fucking-lutely. But it is what it is. However, I really just wish I would have known back then what I know now, because I could have saved myself a lot of time, a lot of negative energy, and have protected myself in that way.
I was just going to say, like, do you still, because it is so unfortunate, you're in a situation where you can't, it sounds like you really have it in a box. Like, it's like, that's, but I was just, do you still feel it? Do you still deal with that? Like, anytime you have to go in there, it's like, it still weighs on you. Like,
in the app or in court?
In the app.
In the app, okay. So yes, it goes back to that fear. What is this message going to say? What is it going to be about? What am I going to be? It used to, but there is one thing, and I will tell you from my personal experience, when you're able to, and we can talk about how do you recognize, like when you are being controlled by a narcissist or you are involved, how do you recognize that and what do you do, right? Yeah. We can get to that. But,
I'm blessed. I almost want to thank the narcissists that have been in my life. Okay. I've had 3 solid ones and they're all different. The thing that they have taught me most is to be absolutely, completely fearless of anything. Like, and what's funny is that the narcissist will think they have control over you. They will do whatever they can. But once you learn how to cut off their supply, and you study them and you anticipate their every move, and especially when you have the receipts to back it up.
So many receipts.
Yes, there is nothing that you have to be afraid of.
Receipts and screenshots.
Yeah, it's a completely different, it's a freeing feeling. But yeah, there's nothing at this point that's going to surprise me, shock me. And believe me, you ladies know, I have been to hell and back. I've met the devil, danced with him, and have given him the middle finger and said, fuck you, I'll see you here, back here in a little bit, because I know I'm going to be back. But I, like, not that I welcome it, but it's like, you know what? Hey, if it happens, it happens. It's just I'm better equipped now with the tools that I've gained through therapy and also the people I surround myself with. So, yeah. Makes sense.
I think the point you were making about they keep coming back and they keep coming back, that's kind of what I experienced, because mine was in a romantic relationship, which thank goodness I had no ties to other than, just being in a romantic relationship with them. So it was I want to say it was a lot easier, even though it was not easy to end the relationship, but they can't stand the fact of how you're making them look to people by ending the relationship.
Oh my God.
They don't care about you. They don't care about the relationship. They care about how they look.
They'll keep it a secret.
They'll
tell people.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love her. I'm so proud of her.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love, she is just the best, so that they look the way they want to look. It's ridiculous.
And they will just keep coming back. And you'll think you're rid of them, and then like a couple months will go by, and then all of a sudden you'll get like an email or something just trying to and they say the same exact thing every time. And you're just like, once you are out of that situation, it's just mind blowing, because it almost makes you laugh, because you see them unraveling, that they've lost control of you. Oh my God, how is this making me look? And it is almost comical once you can recognize the relationship for what it is and remove yourself emotionally from caring about that person.
Exactly. Because, they want to be, like you said, in control of the narrative. I'm telling you, out of the experiences that I've had, I have heard some of the things that have been spoken about me, whether, like their lies, false accusations, bizarre things. I mean, it's been apparently, like, I've been in legal trouble. Apparently I had a DUI. I had none of that. Okay. Like, nothing. Like, background checks are really easy. Yeah. Are really easy to find. It's their narrative that they want to spin. They, of course, are not going to allow their ego to take any responsibility for themselves. They're going to do whatever they can to destroy your name and your reputation. When you start paying attention to who is not talking and isn't speaking and is just keeping their mouth shut, makes you wonder. Because I don't need to badmouth anybody. I don't need to trash anybody. I don't need to spend that negative energy. So I don't need to destroy anybody. I think when you deal with somebody like this, it's like you just want to be rid of them. Like, if you could, rid of them on the planet, because the sheer, existence of them is, honestly, they will do anything. I'm in contact with all 3 of mine too, but they'll find any way to just get some sort of message to you. So it could be, even if just their name's in your face or whatever it is, they will do anything, because and that's I think it's a hard concept for people who are not anywhere close to a narcissist to even comprehend, because who would do that to anybody like that? And it just doesn't make sense. But the thing is, they get they get off with having that control and knowing that, yeah, I'm on their mind. I'm like in front. I'm still, oh my gosh, what's the word? I'm still relevant. And you're not relevant anymore. You're not.
No.
There's no more relevant.
And that actually, I wanted to just interject with that really fast because I had a conversation about our first episode in this podcast with somebody over the weekend, and they have never dealt really, at least to their knowledge, of like a narcissistic situation. And they're like, well, isn't it kind of just like, the person's a jerk and, like everybody throws the word narcissist around and, like what's the difference between a narcissist and a jerk? And people need to realize until you deal with one of these situations, you have no idea the difference. There is a huge, huge, huge difference as to somebody just being a jerky person and somebody literally brainwashing you and affecting like the whole gaslighting thing. I can't shut up about the gaslighting thing.
The key is manipulation. And gaslighting is part of manipulation.
Yes.
So I think it's different than just being someone who's unkind, because the narcissist can be the kindest person you might think. They could be they could look like, a wonderful, wonderful person.
Or that, they're just so down in their luck all the time and the world just keeps kicking them while they're down. And,
I got one of those too.
Yeah.
I heard something, interesting, because when I think back on my relationships, and they're three different ones, three different types of narcissists. When I think back, I'm like, well, wait a second. They weren't like that back then. Or, well, why is it getting worse? Like, shouldn't we, as we are getting older, have that personal growth and become better people? I've listened to many psychiatrists, psychologists say that as a narcissist gets older, they lose their vanity. So they're losing their looks. They're losing, and it can be a female or a male. Like they are losing, there's like those hormonal changes. It's going to sound crazy, but it does make sense. They're going through lives. They might not be in a position in their career as they once were. They don't have that ego. They don't have that control. They don't have that power. So when they lose all of that, whether it's by their own doing, or nature of losing your looks, they become more desperate. And that is where the behavior intensifies because they're grasping for that supply.
All those things feed them.
Yes.
And that's the thing. They don't get their validation from themselves. They get it from everything that's outside of themselves.
Yes.
And then what I realized is I was feeding it. Like that's what being the supply is. I was the one that was feeding the narcissist's ego, because you're right. Like it starts out sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it starts out very sweet, very like, oh my gosh, this person makes you feel special in the way that, rewards you. They call it love bombing you, and it doesn't have to be romantic love bombing. It can be just, they pay extra attention to you. They're giving you extra accolades and they're praising you more, or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden something happens and it's out of character. Like it's out of that narrative. So maybe it's like, for me, maybe it was getting reprimanded, right? Out of like nowhere. And it was like, whoa, this was like an intense thing. And it didn't really make sense in my mind. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And then very shortly after that, they will go right back to love bombing again. Hey, I did that to make sure that, you've got to, it becomes this like, then your mind says they're doing that because they care about my well-being. And that's when the whole game begins, because it's a cycle of
breadcrumbing.
It's breadcrumbing. It's love, attention, and then abuse, and love, attention, then abuse. And it goes on and on and on. The problem and why this is so serious and why we have a series on it now is because it does mess with your psychology and it messes with what is real? If I thought this looked good, like a good, healthy relationship, and if this isn't, what actually even does anything make sense anymore? And nobody should feel like that because of someone being a puppet master. And that's really what they are. Even the covert ones that, don't seem like they are the grandiose, think that they're the best. The ones that play the victim, they have a master plan too. They just use a different manipulation tactic to get their claws in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did any of you, as you start to pull away, was there any time that you kind of doubted whether you were right? Did you feel guilt? Did you say like maybe pulling away isn't what I should be doing? Did you have like the guilt, the doubt?
Only once.
Okay.
I think
once you were done, you were done. Right?
I've gotten past that now. I think it's hard with family members just because, you are given this, set of beliefs that turn into behaviors. Shout out to Kelsey. Where, hey, family is everything. Family first. Family is everything. And I think that's where, for me, it was guilt, and I was starting to recognize a couple of years ago that something was off, something, it was just a toxic relationship as far as, with a family member, it was good, it was bad, it was good. And I just remember I was the one that was made to believe it was me. It was absolutely me because of another half of my genetic makeup, that it was that problem, that fault. And, through therapy, always be careful who you tell to go to therapy. Maybe you need therapy. All right, whatever. Because guess what? Now I'm in therapy. You've made the comments that I'm crazy and, again, from that side of the family. And maybe therapy. Yeah. Then you go to therapy. I do what you say. And it's like, well, wait a second. All right. I'm starting to find all of, like the rose colored glasses are being pulled off. And it's like, well, wait a second. Things aren't right here. And, I'm more at peace without that. I'm more myself. Whereas before it's like, I'm not who I am. Like, I can't be myself because I'm being reminded that I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. Or I get my character completely broken down, and these are from people who like are supposed to love you, right?
Yeah.
And what's interesting, and I'm even going to say this too, since we're on the topic, when we talk about especially parents and children, that cut off those relationships, right? No contact or whether just very strict boundaries, everyone is quick to say, well, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that they don't speak to their parents anymore, or they don't speak to their father, they don't speak to their mother or their whatever. Nobody says, I wonder what that parent did. That would have their child. So, and again, this is coming from my perspective, and the truth always falls in between the middle. And I'm sure, the narcissist that, I'm speaking of would have their version. And that's perfectly okay because everyone's perception is their truth. But I just found that very interesting. Why? And you're hearing a lot more of that now where there are boundaries, strict boundaries being in place to no contact between children and parents.
Well, like for me, my family narcissist is no one in my immediate family. However, I think it's important to say, like how you were talking about, like, in your gut, like when I discovered my situation in family, I was like, oh my God, this is why I've always felt sick around this person. This is why I've never been comfortable around this person. And it's funny because that person actually said, Bridget's just cold and she's just never been very friendly with me. And I don't know what it is, and that kind of thing. And it's like, no, I've forever had this like gut, like, but the covert is so hard because they play the victim. So you almost feel like, oh my God, how can I feel this sick feeling? I should feel bad for this person. I should, want to help this person but that's the psychological game. But, the peace is everything. And I think it's so painful when you uncover something like this, because really there's nowhere to, there's, okay, do I stay because family's family? And do I allow this to continue even though now I know what it is? Or do I protect my peace? And I think more people are now saying, no, I need to protect my peace. It is worth more than, and people say, oh, well, they're going to die at some point. How are you going to feel then? And it's like, I mean, it's tricky, but I know for me, it's like, I will know I still did the right thing. There's nothing to do, because this person is psychologically going to torment me if I allow them in my life, and I won't,
And it is a rough thing, because, I'm a little familiar with that kind of situation that I won't get into, but, anybody can be a parent. That doesn't mean that you're a great person. It doesn't mean you deserve to be a parent. And it's horrible. And I get it. You do hear that. How can a child not talk to their parent? But on the other side of it, how can a parent be the way they are with their child? Like, it's inconceivable to me.
I know. As a parent, it's inconceivable.
As a parent that could never be that way, like, I just don't get it.
It's like,
but nobody asks that.
No, and I'm sure, like, you felt like this. Like, it's like, how, as in that parent role, how can you not? Oh my God, whatever I did as the parent, let me take accountability for, because this is my child. Let me say, listen, if I have hurt you, I am so sorry. Let's have a conversation about that. But that doesn't ever happen.
No, because I would assume somebody who's a narcissist they're not going to go, oh, I'm a narcissist. I get it. No, they don't know.
Do you really think I would be this way?
Yeah.
Is that really what you remember? Is that, and it's like, that's gaslighting.
Mm-hmm.
It's gaslighting.
Oh, mine was, don't tell me your YouTube medical degree told you about that. That was a comment I got. Is that what your YouTube medical degree said?
If anyone should have a YouTube medical degree.
Yeah.
Like that gaslighting literally is like, I am so aware now of, like, if somebody I'm having an interaction with says, like, look, this is how I feel. And it's like, I'm thinking to myself, that is like not how this like went down. That's how they feel. So obviously there's some sort of miscommunication. It's all about communication. You know what I mean? Like, if you made somebody feel a certain way, while it might not have been your intent, like, that is your opportunity to talk to them and be like, well, I'm seeing it this way, so let's have a conversation.
To communicate it.
Yes.
And then there's understanding on both sides. But if you just push for, no, you're right. How would you ever think that I would be this way? It's like, if you're not going to take any accountability for how you made someone feel, there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And like, and literally when the person, what happened and what reality was, and they want to spin it a whole other way and tell you, well, no, that's not what happened. Like, it is literally, it damages your brain. It creates this negative feedback loop. It is like the worst thing you can do to somebody. That's why I will always get on the soapbox of gaslighting and how damaging it is, and how more people need to be aware that this is not okay in any kind of relationship.
For children, it causes so much confusion. It literally, like we talked about last episode, they block out memories. They have very foggy memories because they've been in so much pain, and things feel so confusing when you're in pain and there's someone, a family member who's confusing you. You're trying to suppress all that, and you're like, okay, I just, it makes for a huge emotional disconnect for the person being victimized.
It would be very easy for somebody to say, well, you were only 7 years old. Like, obviously it didn't happen that way.
Literally, your subconscious beliefs are formed between ages 1 and 7. So those are like the key years.
And of course you're going to say, well, yeah, you're right. I was a kid. I probably don't really remember, what I think I'm remembering. you would hope, we're doing this and hope that people that have been affected and being victims of this are going to find something to connect, but also people that may be treating people this way.
They won't.
They won't. And,
They won't.
you would like to think that somebody doesn't sit back one day and say, you know what? I'm going to be a narcissist. You know what I mean? Like, how does that happen? Like, how does it develop? That
I don't know. I'd love to get like an expert on about it but from what I've, researched, it's not something that I'm just like, I'm going to be a narcissist today.
Yeah. How does that happen in somebody's life that they become that?
It has to be some sort of coping mechanism.
Well, it's also childhood trauma for them.
Right. Yeah.
And I think we've had a lot of lineages of this, and it's trickled down, and but it all comes from, again, like the ability to take accountability for your actions and change. Like, people don't just like, oh, I'm narcissistic. It's like, because it's psychological, because they would never say, okay, let me take accountability for my actions, sit down, and it's never gonna happen. Mm-hmm. Never.
Do you think, though, if you have that in your family, I mean, I know that it wasn't, direct, like close family for you, but if you have that in your family, that you are a little bit more aware then, I would think as you're dealing with your family members and your kids and everything, that you're, maybe hearing yourself say things like, oh, I got to shut that down.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to recognize more of that in yourself.
I think this could be like a whole other episode, but like, how do you get to that point?
Yeah.
Right. So I'll give you an example. Looking back, now that things have become apparent to me, I was in a very wonderful relationship. I was engaged to a wonderful man, one of the healthiest relationships that I've been in. And he wasn't a narcissist at all. Took me on when I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. I mean, like, right there, that guy should walk on water, for that. And we were, I believe, in a 4 or 5 year relationship. And I got, I worked for corporate, and he was starting at that time his own business. And I remember I kept getting promoted. Now, I don't have a college degree, so everything was a lot more grit and grind. Mm-hmm. And then I climbed the corporate ladder, and I was making more money, and I was making more than double of what, he at the time was making. But I found myself, the higher I rose in my career, the more rank I had in my position, the more money that I was making, I was turning into somebody that I knew very, very well. Mm-hmm. And I started getting that. I started getting, I feel just certain things that I would say, I was picking up from 2 different narcissists, right? And how do I say, I was diminishing him. Mm-hmm. But you own your own company, and you only work like 9 to 5. Well, here he's putting the kids on the bus. He's getting, he's helping with, but I was like, well, if you're starting your own business, like, you need to be up at this time. You need to be up at that time. Look at everything I'm doing. I'm traveling up and down the East Coast. I'm getting on flights. I'm trying to like bank all this, and then like, it was the money thing. Then it started turning into like the internal parts of us. I started fighting nastier because I just had this, I just wanted to beat my chest, and I don't know how to describe it. It's hard.
The power thing.
Yes. And it was reminding me of a relationship, and it was reminding, and it was like, I am at that time, I was like, I'm gonna be successful. I'm gonna be what I'm gonna prove, whether it's my parents or my family, whatever, myself, most important, I'm gonna keep on going. And here it was destroying my relationship because of who I was becoming. And looking back now, our engagement, it failed. Our relationship failed. But now it's like, you know what? Like, he was a really wonderful man. And that was honestly 75-80% me. Mm-hmm. But I didn't recognize it that. Yeah. At that time, it was all him. He wasn't doing this. He wasn't doing that. Like, what is he bringing to the table? And I'm thinking, who the fuck was I? You know what I mean? Like, I destroyed something that was so great, Mm-hmm. And it's not like I have regrets about that because, you know, it taught me something.
Right.
And,
You learn from it.
Right. But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I think until you recognize that narcissism and what it is and what it looks like, you can get bouts of it because it's beliefs that turns into behaviors.
You are also conditioned by a narcissist because I've had the exact same thing. I've experienced the same thing where not anymore, thank God, but things would come out of my mouth and I'd be like, I sound just like this person. And then it's like, oh my God, you're conditioned to be that way. So if you're raised, in that environment, that's going to trickle out when you feel, yes, I'm gaining power and success or whatever. This is how I'm supposed to respond or be like with that. It's not that you're a narcissist. Like it's not like you can't make yourself a narcissist.
No,
if you would have gone down that path,
but I felt like I was getting those tendencies. That ego-ness. But going back to what Amy had in our discussions, childhood trauma can make you hyper independent.
Hyper independent is a trauma response.
Yes. And I think sometimes when you become hyper independent and then you throw on that ego and success on top of success and you start measuring yourself against other people, that's an inadequacy in you somewhere deep down, but you get like those characteristics maybe.
So it goes back to like the spectrum that we talked about, that, there's different degrees of narcissism. That if somebody may have some narcissistic tendencies, or behaviors, that doesn't mean that they're full blown narcissists. Right. Yeah.
The full blowns go undiagnosed.
Yeah.
Because they're not self-aware.
Right.
Yeah.
And their reality is their reality. As bizarre as it is.
And self-awareness, like you were just talking about, like the more you become self-aware, the more you can reflect on, your past behaviors and how your behaviors now are shaped by your past. And you can choose to have new behaviors, and to be very mindful of the things that, have affected you from the past, that you're not bringing them on to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so important. I saw something the other day, I think I shared it with you guys, that asked about forgiveness. Like, do you forgive a narcissist? And I mean, I'll go first. No. And I don't think it's, what is her name, Amy? Do you know the doctor? Oh my gosh, she is so good and she dives in. I watched so many of her things. You had sent me something on her about covert narcissism. I can't think of her name, but she was the one who was having this reel or whatever that I saw. And it was like, I don't feel guilty for not forgiving this person. And, there's so much attention on forgiveness that you have to forgive. You have to forgive in order to move on. I don't think that's true at all. I'm never going to forgive someone for like destroying my soul at such a young age. I don't have to. I don't want to. They're going to sink their own ship. They probably already have. And I don't feel I need to forgive. And, again, a lot of times there's no words said. And there doesn't need to be. It's just done.
It's organic.
Yeah, I agree. They say that forgiveness is the way that you can heal, but there are some things that are just absolutely unforgivable.
I think you just get to a point, though, like at least I'm at a point in my life where they're just irrelevant.
Yes.
Right.
Completely
it doesn't
irrelevant.
mean you forgave.
Yeah. No, I still think they're a big piece of shit. But they're completely irrelevant in the world.
Right.
So.
There's no need to continue to give it any of your time or attention.
Exactly.
Or thought.
Exactly.
It's done. It's over. It's,
lessons, good lessons.
Right.
Actually, I think back and I'm like, I grew so much in that relationship. As much as it was pure hell for most of that relationship, I grew so much as a person and learned so many things. And I can say that I will be totally fine moving forward in my life. Yeah. Because of that relationship. So.
Well, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
You get through things and we learn from everything we go through.
Oh, sorry.
No. I was just going to say, like, as far as forgiveness and forgiving a narcissist, no. No. speaking into the camp. No, because forgiveness, we're always taught to, and depending on your religious belief, and, I'm a God-fearing woman, forgiveness, you have to forgive. And it's not as easy as just saying, yes, I forgive you. And then I've also heard the argument where forgiveness is more about you, the person who is giving the forgiveness. But going back to what Wendy said, it's part of the healing. Well, part of my healing is the therapy, is the talking about it, is the recognition and making sure that I don't demonstrate that, or, recognizing people that are in my life and say, nope. And like I said to you girls, I've already talked to sweet baby Jesus. If the forgiveness is the deal breaker, we're going to chat about it someday. But, my beliefs, I look to a higher power. I think we all sort of do in some way, shape, or form. But I've had those discussions. And because of that higher power, I've got to the healing that I've become. So I kind of look at that as, it doesn't need to be the word forgiveness, but yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah. I feel like irrelevance is like a good word.
Yeah.
Irrelevant.
It's irrelevant, but kind of going off what you said, I'm grateful. Because honestly, the like horrible shit that I was put through, I would not be the person I am today. And, I'm more grateful to the experience and to following my instincts and, the recommendations from the people around me to get help get into therapy, and identify what these issues were. But I'm not necessarily grateful to the person at all, because screw the person. I'm grateful for the experience, because it really, like you said in the beginning, there's nothing I can't do now. There is nothing I can't. If I could overcome that, I'm completely fearless. But there is gratitude there for the experience, because it made me who I am, and everything happens for a reason. It was on my path for a reason. That person came into my life for a reason and put me through hell for a reason. And for that, I'm glad, because I would not be who I am.
Yeah. And I think, a narcissist would probably take that as,
you're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome. So really you should be, thankful not to them, but you should be thankful to yourself.
That's true.
Because you took that power and you did what you needed to do for yourself to get you put in that work, all of you. Put in that work to get yourself where you're at now.
Yeah.
Going back to your thing, what you said, like a narcissist would be like, oh yeah, you're welcome because of me.
Right.
But let's get it straight. You don't have control over me. That one, oh yeah, but guess what? You don't have control over me. You don't have access to me. You don't get to dictate my energy, take control. You have no control. So that eats them up.
Oh, I hate that.
They fucking hate that.
Yeah.
So they can take all the accolades they want
back.
Yeah, they can take all the accolades
however they possibly can.
Yeah.
Buy a round for the bar and say woohoo because of me,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Go
so screwed up.
It is.
Yeah. It's so screwed up.
Besides, we talked last time, besides therapy, that's a great starting point. What else would you tell people that are just in the beginning phases of starting to wake up to what's going on in their lives? What would you say?
I think first you just get the feeling something's not right. You know what I mean? And I think the more self-aware you can become, like I have not been to therapy for this situation, but I'm a big, podcast person, listening to different scientists, listening to different, people. So I kind of feel like I put myself through therapy and like, you just know there's something not right. So I would say always, if you have that feeling, even if it's not about a relationship thing in your life, if you just have this feeling something is not right, just start researching, start being curious. Like, why do I feel this way? And just, go down the rabbit hole, because sooner or later you'll find your answers.
Well, did you have people that you kind of like had in your life that you said, look, I think something's not right here? Not therapists, that, like a best friend or a family member that you kind of, could get on board with you to kind of help support you through the process, or,
I think for me, it was, again, it's hard because the facade is that they're this great person. So they're still manipulating you to think. For me, I needed a therapist intervention to be like, and I didn't go to therapy because of that person. Right. I went to therapy because I was like, I'm having anxiety. I'm having self-doubt. Like what? And my therapist was very like, it's this person. And I was like, huh? Like, could not believe it. But, I think in the beginning, you talk about in the beginning, it's, for me, I did whatever I had to do to feel safe. So, that was hard, because I felt, and then I realized because I had to do so many things to make myself feel safe. I mean, changing locks, doing X, Y, Z. Like I was like, this is what's wrong. Boom, like complete screen. You have no more access to me. You're done. But I was still scared that this person, because they've always been so persistent, they would never ever stop, that they were going to come after me. And I could feel their energy of their rage when I closed that door. And I knew it was there, and it's still there. Shout out to your rage. But, for me, it's like, you got to keep yourself safe. And then once you keep yourself safe, you can talk about it. But I realized, I was like, whoa, like even when I think back on these times where I felt unsafe, when I carried, I really tried to keep myself safe. I was like, holy shit, this person had such a hold on me that I felt so unsafe. When I realized that was the problem, whoa. And then you are almost, you work through the guilt. You're like, how did I let someone take over my mind?
That's
the mind fuck.
Yes.
That's the mind fuck.
And then you feel guilty.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you feel inept.
How was I stupid? How did I not see this? And you have to work through that because you were in manipulation with a literal dark, fucked up person.
And it happens just so little at a
Itty
time.
bitty
You don't notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until it's so huge.
A friend of mine is going through a situation right now. Very, very smart woman. But
it's always the smart ones.
It's always the smart ones.
They go after the smart ones.
They do. And, she's been talking to me for years, just about the toxicity of her relationship. And, I never want to be the person to say, because she would come to me, what do you think I should do? What do I do? If you were me, what would you do? And it's like, listen, this is your situation. I would never want to tell you what to do, because honestly, at the end of the day, there's somebody in that situation, which I identified right away, is going to do what they're going to do. And, it took, her listening to her gut, right? So she was being manipulated by somebody, mind fucked by somebody. Here, this guy was living a double life, had another girlfriend. Yes. Wow. But yet she was living in the house. Like, it was like the most bizarre thing. But no matter how much I told her, her other friends told her, like, are you not seeing this? Like, how are you? Hello, like she had to figure all of this out on her own. It was nothing that anybody else could convince her of.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, listen, this is a judgment-free zone. I'll support whatever you want to do, but I'm telling you, like, this is affecting you emotionally, physically. Like, when are you, like, you want to shake that and smack them, and you can't. Now that she's realized this on her own, not by anybody else, she's like, oh my God. And now she's going through, I can't believe, like, this was a sign, that was a sign, going back years. And she's like, how, like, I wasn't dumb because I thought it was odd, but like, why didn't I act on it then? Well, because they have a hold on you.
You'll just explain it away.
Yes.
Because,
that's, Well, especially with the double life and the other, I have no idea what you're talking about. Really? Because I'm talking to the other girl. I made contact. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hello. Yeah. But it's just, it took I think when you're in that situation, nobody can pull you out of it except yourself. And it's just that light bulb moment.
But I don't want to go over on time because I know we're getting a little long here, but I do have a question, and maybe this is for another part in the series, but once you opened your eyes and you made it very clear, I'm cutting this person off, and everybody around you knew it. And you said, this is what's going on. This is what I've realized. Was there anybody that said, oh yeah, like, did you find out that other people kind of saw it too?
Yeah.
But they kind of kept their mouths shut. And then how do you deal with that? That it's like, why didn't you say something? You know what I mean?
Oh, that's like the funniest thing, because immediately when all this was going down, I like texted every single friend that we were mutual friends with on Facebook. And I was like, delete this person, delete him. This is what's going on. And he lost his mind for 12 hours. I got harassed in one day. I can't believe you, how are you making me look to everybody? That was the key thing, and people were not surprised by it because, of everything. Cause I'm pretty much over.
But did you go back then and say, like, well, why didn't you step in? Like, to those people that also cared about you, to go like, how did you not rescue me? Help me with it.
I think unless you're the one in the situation, people don't know how bad it is.
Yes.
Like,
oh my God.
Like
yes.
because everybody always
they maybe have a little clue, but not the whole picture. They do,
but like the brain manipulation part of it is like a whole different ballgame when you're the person in the situation and people are seeing it from the outside. Like, they will see the situation and know that it's not a good situation, but to the extent, like, they won't understand like why you're not seeing the situation. Do you know what I mean? And then everybody always wants to see the good in people. So they, like, my friends would be like, well, he's a nice guy, but like, I don't know, like, cause they're the nice guy. It's the facade, like,
obviously
saying.
they have everybody snowed.
Yeah.
But there's always some people that are like, I'm not so sure about this.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, my husband didn't even fully grasp that. And you would think that my husband, I tell him everything. We talk about everything, that he would be like, this is a little off, but he's also been conditioned in a different type of way with narcissism. So it's hard when you are, so opposite of the narcissistic spectrum, and you are really an empathic person, and my husband's a really empathic person, hardworking, will do anything for anybody. So it's like, okay, maybe this is just the way it is. Maybe this is just this person's personality. There was a few times, of course, that he was like, I wish he would fuck off. But like, it was never like he was like, Bridget, this is like an issue, until then I started therapy and I started telling him everything about it. I'm like, oh my God, this is what this is. And he's like, holy shit. Like, absolutely. That's what that
he
was.
could see it more too.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's once you really see it yourself. Again, even my husband didn't really, and he was the closest one, seeing everything for so many years. He didn't even really, he wasn't the one in it. I was in it. I was the one inundated constantly. So, and you never share how bad it is.
You never share how bad it is.
Because you have respect for that person.
Right.
You care about that person. You're like, no, this person is doing this for my own good. You know what I mean? So you don't share the, oh, this is messed up, because to you, it's just like, okay, like, this is just like the way it is. And
getting back to Wendy, especially my last relationship, I was with a narcissist that played the victim. I don't know the fancy term for it, Dr. Amy.
The covert narcissist.
The victim.
The woe is me.
Yeah, we were in a relationship for 7 or 8 years, and I want to say probably the last 3 years of that relationship, I was extremely unhappy, but I didn't let it show at all. Mm-hmm. I didn't let it show because I was always, I wanted what happened between the four walls to stay in between the four walls. Plus there's kids involved too, and I didn't want to talk about that stuff with my family because You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't want that interruption, okay? And plus, everyone thought, oh my gosh, like, it's a great relationship. He's so good with the kids. He's a father figure to them. And I was miserable my last 3 years, and I will be completely transparent. I developed feelings for somebody else. Okay. Before I got out of that relationship, it is what it is. And it was chalked up to, I was going through a midlife crisis because it was right around the time that I turned 40, but I was guilted by my family. You know, well, did you ever think that maybe, you know, it was your drinking because we noticed you were drinking a lot more? Yeah, I was drinking because I was that fucking miserable. And where were you? If you guys thought like I was drinking more or coping in different ways and I wasn't myself, why didn't anyone come to me?
Yeah,
right?
Like we noticed, like, is there something going on?
You noticed a little too late, right?
Right.
So then it was just, you know, well, how could you leave him? Like, you need to keep the family together. Why? He's not the father of my children. He's great to my children. However, no. Like, I was guilted. And then him playing the victim, then he saturated my family. You girls know my family didn't talk to me. There are certain members of my family that didn't talk to me for 8 months.
Well, I can even attest to,
How does that
know
happen?
who you're talking about, and I never would have ever in a million years thought until everything started to, you know, come to light. Like, it wasn't like you were telling us, like, yeah, this stuff's going on. You were, you know, you don't, and the picture I saw was like, oh my God, amazing. You know, you don't see it. It's,
and that's the biggest thing. Like, you should never pass judgment on, you know, what happens with people, like, because they have no idea what was happening.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's like the fucked up part, because those people are the same people who are like, but we're family. But we're family. But we're family. But now I'm not going to talk to you for 8 fucking months because you did something that I didn't agree with.
Right.
Like, that is messed up.
And I still, people, you know, to this day too, even with that relationship, you know, there's still people, friends of mine, you know, oh, I saw him out, blah, blah, blah. He was such a really great guy. And you know what I say? You know, what you see? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. However, you know, things just didn't work out in the relationship. They weren't as great as you think they were, you know, because then I'm the crazy one. You know, I've had people say, well, why would you break up with him? I wasn't happy. And
well, it's easy to say when, you know,
right,
you see him for maybe 15, 20 minutes or at a dinner or something. Hey, you're not living with him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, you know. Then you go, that's gaslighting me. Like, well,
right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'm not the crazy one.
Yeah. So
people need to stop asking so many questions. That would be a good life lesson for everybody.
Just butt out.
Yeah.
Not your business.
Mind your business.
Yes.
Mind your business.
Well, and I think too, in this day and age with everybody being online and social media, there's a platform to post this and that in every aspect of your life, and a lot of it's bullshit. You know,
absolutely.
I'm sorry, people, but the more pictures you post of, you know, you and your wife, you and your husband, and how great like everything is, there's a lot of people that know the truth, you know. But you know, in this society where everyone is putting everything out there, we've had this conversation too, where it's like, I can't believe they just were that forthcoming about it, like the things that come out of people's mouths. And I think that as society, you know, people expect you to just be like, blah, 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 blah. No, like I want to protect certain parts of my life.
You don't have to overshare.
That's healthy, right? Overshare.
Yes, can we please stop oversharing?
Yes.
We do not need to know the play-by-play of like, I just took a dump and the cat watched me and now I have to go make dinner and now I'm depressed. Can we please stop?
I'm good with the sourdough pictures too. Like, that was so 2020. So if you could stop posting pictures of your bread, that would be awesome.
I'll just send them to you private.
Yeah, please. Just bring it in.
I was going to say, just give me the bread. I don't need to see the before, you know? Well, that completely went off the rails.
It did. There's a squirrel.
So that's probably a good time to wrap it up. Yeah. So do we think there's going to be more to this series?
Very well could be.
I'd love it. Yeah. We'd love to get an expert on here too.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully just someone listening to this is like, it picks anything up and they're like, is this like a red flag for me?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
dive in a little bit if you thought that at all, if you heard
Yeah.
everything we said and you're like, that resonates. It probably does for a reason.
Yeah.
I just want to close too. If this is resonating with you and a light bulb goes off and you're like, you know what, maybe I am being emotionally, physically, or sexually abused, in this relationship, SafeBurgs is an awesome resource.
Yes.
I wish I only knew about SafeBurgs back when I was going through a similar situation, and when I was thinking about seeking help, I'm like, well, wait a second, I don't fit that picture, that criteria. No, it's for everybody and anybody. It does not matter. So absolutely, there's great resources out there.
Even if you're just questioning, if you're not in immediate danger and even just need somebody to talk to, like they will guide you through,
point you in the right direction. And if Baja, that SafeBurgs is very near and dear to our hearts. So, leave us some comments if this resonates with you. Share the video, pass it on, follow us on YouTube, right?
Everything.
Everything. We've got our app.
Facebook,
we've got all the things. So check us out and tune in next time.
Bye.